They only play those who still hope to be liked. The moment you kill the need to please, you stop being their toy and become their terror. You stop speaking to be heard. Stop moving to be noticed. Stop bending to be accepted. You move with silence, act without explanation, and become what they don't know how to predict. In a world addicted to emotional puppetry, the one who no longer needs approval becomes unplayable. People want you nice, soft, agreeable, digestible. That's how they extract power. They train you early, smile when it's not real, agree when you disagree, say yes before you've even thought. They clap when you submit. They can't play they call you mature when you ignore your instincts. But that was never maturity, it was obedience dressed as virtue. Now that you've stopped playing that game, they feel something unfamiliar. Fear. Machiavelli never wrote a manual on how to be liked. He wrote the blueprint for how to be respected. The first law of that respect: you must become immune to their disappointment. You must be willing to let them frown, misunderstand, withdraw. Because the second they sense their opinion shapes you, they mold you, they push, they guilt, they threaten silence. But when you no longer flinch, when their validation means nothing, you become immovable. You stop chasing comfort and begin cultivating gravity. People orbit around those who don't orbit anyone. Their need to please makes them predictable. Your indifference makes you powerful. Because if you don't need applause, you don't have to perform. If you don't need inclusion, you stop compromising. The moment they realize your emotional thermostat is internal, you begin to control the temperature of every room you walk into. Your strength doesn't come from defiance. It comes from detachment, the strength to say no without explanation, to walk away without looking back, to do what is necessary even when it's unpopular. Most people live on a leash woven from smiles and apologies. You cut the leash and keep walking. You were never meant to be tamed. They'll call you cold, selfish, difficult. That's what they call anyone who can't be manipulated. That's what they say when kindness fails to control you. But there's a difference between cruelty and clarity. You don't harm, you refuse to be handled. You don't attack, you withdraw. You don't react, you remain still. And that stillness, that unshakable calm, begins to terrify them because they can't play you anymore. The strings don't work, the tactics fall flat. The words that used to move you now echo in silence. In that silence, they hear the truth. You were never theirs to control. You were only pretending, giving them the illusion of influence. But now the performance is over. You've walked off the stage, taken off the mask, and what remains is something they can't name but instinctively fear. You don't owe them understanding. You don't owe them comfort. You owe yourself freedom, freedom from the exhausting theater of social approval. Freedom from explaining decisions that don't require consensus. Freedom from being liked by people who would never bleed for you. Once you kill the need to please, you start living for something pure: alignment, self-respect, purpose. With that freedom comes the second transformation. You become unreadable. They can't figure out what you want because what you want no longer includes them. They analyze your tone, your timing, your silences, looking for clues. But you've stopped broadcasting your thoughts for free. You've locked the gates. When they can't predict you, they start to fear you. Because in their world, control is safety, and you've just proven you're outside their control. Machiavelli understood: those who control perception control power, and nothing controls perception more than silence. When you stop justifying, people start guessing. When you stop performing, they start projecting. Those projections become fear, respect, obsession. You didn't change who you are, you changed what they think of you by refusing to play the role they gave you. The need to please is a soft addiction. It makes you easy to manipulate because it turns your self-worth into a mirror they can shatter at will. A raised eyebrow breaks your confidence. A passive-aggressive comment derails your path. They know exactly which button to press because you've taught them every time you sought reassurance. You taught them to hold your worth hostage, but now the power's shifted. You've become untouchable not by fighting back, but by no longer caring. You've learned the art of emotional distance. You give just enough to be respected, never enough to be dependent. Your time is earned. Your presence is limited. Your praise is rare and therefore sacred. People start treating you like a mystery, part myth, part mirror. They see in you what they crave but can't control. And that's what keeps them coming back. You're no longer a player in their script. You're the writer of your own. Your script is ruthless. It cuts what distracts, burns what manipulates, silences what drains. You don't scream your power. You whisper it in your absence. Your withdrawal becomes punishment. Your withdrawal becomes punishment. Your presence becomes privilege. They can no longer anticipate your reactions, so they start calculating their actions. You kill the need to please, and suddenly your yes carries weight. It's no longer expected, it's earned. People lean in when you speak because you no longer waste words on validation. You've trained the room to listen not out of politeness, but out of curiosity. What will you say? What will you do? What matters to you? The answer is always the same, only what serves your mission. You don't entertain guilt. Guilt is a leash, a tactic used by those who've lost persuasion and resort to shame. But shame doesn't work on you anymore. You've faced your darkness, befriended your flaws, stood naked before your own judgment, so there's means nothing. You've forgiven yourself, and that's the armor no one can penetrate. Now you move like Machiavelli's prince, cold when necessary, generous by choice, feared by design. Your emotions are no longer weapons used against you. They are tools wielded with precision. You allow warmth, but only to those who've proven they won't misuse it. You show compassion, but never as currency. Your kindness is no longer a weakness, it's a strategy when you control, one you can withdraw at any moment. They'll test your resolve. The world hates when its puppets cut their strings. They'll provoke you with silence, punish you with exclusion, guilt you with, "You've changed." But you don't flinch, you don't explain. You let their confusion grow because every time they try to pull you back into the game, your refusal teaches them a new truth. You're no longer someone who can be played. You become the villain you. Become the villain in their story, and you wear it proudly because to them, villain simply means person I can no longer manipulate. You are the mirror that reflects their powerlessness, and rather than admit it, they'll call you names. Let them write their narrative while you live yours. Here's the final twist. When you no longer seek to please the right people, start to appear people who respect boundaries, who recognize strength, who don't need your softness to feel strong. People who don't want to play you but wanted to build with you. You've now filtered your world without lifting a finger. Your detachment has become your greatest filter. The desperate disappear, the worthy remain. Machiavelli wrote that men are quick to forget benefits, but never forget injuries. The need to please leads to temporary affection and permanent disrespect, but detachment breeds permanent mystery and lasting power. Because they never get to know all of you, they get glimpses, moments, whispers. You remain always just beyond reach, close enough to admire, too distant to touch. You must cultivate that distance like a throne. Your silence becomes your crown, your indifference your armor, your absence your legend. You didn't chase power, you became it. You didn't beg for respect, you commanded it through what you refused to need. Now they whisper about you, wonder about you, study your moves. Every time they try to bait you with the need to be liked, you simply don't respond. The deadliest players are never the loudest. They are the ones who no longer need to play. You no longer trade your soul for a smile. You no longer shrink your truth to fit inside their comfort. That is why they fear you, not because you have power, but because you've become immune to the tactics they've used on everyone else. The guilt, the silence, the praise turn punishment, it all slides off you like water. You are ungraspable. They reach for you but never touch what matters. You're not detached, you're purified. The parts of you that used to beg, explain, and accommodate are dead. And what rose in their place is something people are not trained to handle. Someone who can walk away without a second thought. Your detachment becomes your gravity. The more you don't need them, the more they orbit you. You are no longer accessible. You are felt, not held, seen, but never understood, admired, feared, longed for, all in silence. Because when they can't control you, they turn to obsession, not because you gave too much, but because you mastered the art of giving less than they expected. Less is always more when you're unforgettable. They begin to dream about your voice. Imagine your next words, analyze your past silences. You speak less, and they hear more. You act less, and they react more. Their world bends around the unpredictability of yours. They start living for your attention not because it's plentiful, but because it's rare. You have made yourself a scarce resource in a world overflowing with desperate availability. And that scarcity becomes sacred. They study your absence. Like scripture, looking for divine meaning. They replay your cold goodbyes, your silent re-entries, your calculated glances. You've become an emotional algorithm they can't decode, but they try. They try because now their identity is tied to your validation. And your validation is tied to nothing but your own design. What do you call someone who doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't break? You call them unforgettable. You call them dangerous. You call them what you can't play. Once you reach this level, the air changes around you. People lower their voices when you enter. Double check their words, not because you demand it, but because you've trained them with your silence, your absences, your unpredictability. You've made yourself their mirror. They no longer see you. They see their reflection in your restraint. This is how you dominate without ever raising your voice. Your detachment becomes a kind of royalty. You do not need a crown, you carry it in your stillness. And stillness is what breaks them, not chaos, not argument, but stillness, the pause between your words, the way you don't react, the way you move on like nothing happened, because to you nothing did. Their drama, their games, their strategies, they don't live in your world anymore. They try harder, apologize more, compliment more aggressively, hoping you'll open up again. But you don't open. You never did. You allowed access briefly. Now they realize that wasn't an invitation, it was a test, and they failed. Because the one rule you never speak but always enforce is this: if they think your affection is owed, they are unworthy of it. They'll ask what changed. They'll wonder when they lost you. But the truth is, they never had you. They had a version of you designed to survive, not to reign. Once that version died, you became sovereign. You're not cold, you're clean from the mess of emotional dependency, clean from the rot of constant compromise. You are now a figure they bow to, not a servant who bends for attention. You are peace. This is why you must never try to be understood. Understanding makes you small. Explanation invites dissection. But mystery is immortal. They respect what they can't define. They chase what they can't capture. You've become both, not a mystery by accident, but by design. You are fragments, silhouettes, echoes of something deeper. They sense it, they hunger for it, but they never reach it. To destroy the need to please. Stop seeking closure. Let them misunderstand you. Let them think you're heartless. Let them call you cold. What they say reveals their weakness. What you withhold reveals your strength. Their emotions don't belong to you. Their discomfort is not your debt. Their expectations are not your orders. Once you realize this, you no longer speak to clarify. You speak only when the silence would cost more. That is when the dynamic shifts forever. They now know your attention is not casual. Your presence is not free. Your words are not for decoration. Everything you do is an act of self-alignment. And if they want to be part of it, they must rise to your standard. You don't lower the throne, you teach them to climb. Most won't. Most will retreat. Hurt that you wouldn't shrink for them. Let them. Their departure is proof of your clarity. You didn't lose them, you filtered them. Those who stay, those who adapt, will carry your imprint forever, because what you offer is rare in a world of oversharing and overgiving. Disciplined affection. You give only what multiplies your peace. Everything else is gone without a word. People play those who are desperate to be included, but you're not desperate. You are the invitation they hope to receive. You've inverted the game. They now audition for access. Calculate their presence around your standards. They don't want to lose you, not because of who you are, but because of who they are when they're around you. That's the final transformation. You no longer please to earn peace. You are peace. You carry it like armor, like gravity, like prophecy. They can't play you anymore, not because you learned their tricks, but because you outgrew the stage. They whisper about you, call you arrogant, cold, unreachable, and every word proves you've won. You were never meant to be palatable. You were meant to be powerful. Let them choke on your silence, drown in your detachment. You are no longer a character in their story. You are the plot twist they never recover from. Because you killed the need to please, you became something even Machiavelli admired, a force without chains, a ruler without mercy, a myth without limits. You have become untouchable, not because you've hidden your heart, but because you've weaponized it. You don't reject connection. You simply refuse to beg for it. Your love is no longer a default setting, it is a vault, and most won't even find the keyhole. You've reversed the economy of emotion. In a world that throws attention like coins in a fountain, your silence is gold. Your time is treasure, and your presence a privilege earned in blood, not bought with affection. They begin to see it not at first. At first, they think you're just quiet, just different. But over time, they realize they can't reach you in the usual ways. They laugh harder, flatter louder, perform kindness like a ritual, and still, your expression doesn't change because you're not looking to be impressed. You're watching to be confirmed that they aren't just another mask looking to pull yours off. Confirmed that they don't just admire your depth, but can breathe in it. You've shifted from approval seeker to reality shaper. The need to please is gone, but in its place is something more dangerous, the power to influence without persuasion. You don't have to convince anyone, you just live differently. And they either adapt or leave. Those who adapt start reshaping their behavior to mirror yours, not because you asked, but because they want to remain in your orbit. You've become their center of gravity. You didn't ask for it, you just became too stable, too sharp, too exacting to be ignored. Now they feel seen and scared, admired and unworthy. You've created a mirror that both reflects and judges. You don't critique, you don't need to. Your standards are encoded into your energy, the way you walk, the way you listen without rescuing, the way you disappear when mediocrity dares to cling to you. In doing so, you've taught them the most powerful Machiavellian lesson. Detachment is not loneliness, it is sovereignty. You've replaced approval with alignment. You don't need them to say you're good, you are. You don't need them to clap for your decisions, you've already made them. You don't need them to agree with your path, you walk it alone. They begin to sense that their feelings, their reactions, their attempts at praise or punishment all bounce off you like dull blades against steel. You've made yourself emotionally armored, not numb, but precise, because emotional precision is the highest form of power. You feel, but you don't fold. You care, but you don't chase. You love, but you don't beg. You offer everything from fullness, not hunger. That's why they come back again and again, not because you gave them what they wanted, but because you made them question what they deserve. You made them uncomfortable in a way no one else had the nerve to. You didn't flatter, you didn't entertain, you revealed them to themselves. Now your name is synonymous with awakening, with tension, with standard, with transformation. They hear it and remember a version of themselves they only knew around you. That memory never leaves. You are the unfinished chapter, you are not the past. You are the unfinished chapter. The conversation that ended mid-sentence, the potential they still replay in their mind when the room goes quiet. They will do anything, say anything to get one more line, but you no longer write with their ink. You write in silence, in absence, in standards that bend for no one. They will test you, apologize, show vulnerability, pretend they understand, but you've learned the difference between change and performance. Performance fades, change sustains. Most cannot sustain the requirements of your presence, so you let them go, not with malice, but with precision, a surgical extraction of their noise from your life. You don't announce it, you execute it. That makes them remember you more than any confrontation ever could, because your goodbye never comes with a speech, it comes with absence. And absence, when built on power, becomes legend. You are no longer someone they explain. You're someone they reference, a name dropped with reverence and confusion. They were different. I don't know why, I just felt small around them. That's the echo of someone who stood in your presence and saw the gap between who they are and who they pretended to be. You made them feel it, not by telling them, but by simply not shrinking. This is how you remain unforgettable. You walk out of rooms without slamming the door. You leave just enough silence behind that it becomes haunted. They open that door every time they get close to another person, looking for pieces of you. But no one else speaks like you. No one else listens like you. Your exits are now your signature, clean, sudden, final. They can't play you anymore because they no longer know which game you're playing. You've transcended the board. You're not their opponent, you're the architect of the entire room. You don't roll dice, you write the rules, and you don't care if they understand them. You only care if they can keep up, so you stop checking in, stop replying to silence, stop being their emotional translator. You speak one language now, alignment. Anything out of tune fades from your frequency. They sense it, they panic, but it's too late. You're gone not in body, but in presence. Nothing haunts like a presence withdrawn. You must never explain your evolution. They didn't earn it. Those who didn't grow with you don't deserve the map of how you did it. Let them guess. Let them wonder. Let your transformation become their punishment. Their regret is the price of your clarity. Machiavelli knew the most dangerous man is not the one who speaks loudest. It's the one whose silence changes everything. That's who you've become. They walk into rooms hoping you'll be there. Even if they pretend otherwise, they compare everyone to you, even when they try not to. They replay everything you said, everything you didn't say, wondering what you meant. You're not a person, they've made you a symbol. Symbols don't beg to be liked. Symbols are worshipped or feared or both. That is your final ascension. From approval seeker to sovereign symbol, from smiling servant to unreadable force, from please like me to you'll never forget me. They won't. Because you didn't just kill the need to please, you buried the version of yourself who thought. That was power. You were never meant to be liked. You were meant to be legendary. There comes a point when you no longer need to detach because you were never attached in the first place. The game doesn't end. You just stop playing by their rules. You don't retreat from them. You rise above them. What they once called distance, they now call power. What they once called coldness, they now call control. What they once called arrogance, they now whisper as awe. This is the metamorphosis. You're not resisting who you used to be, you're erasing it. The version of you that needed to be liked, accepted, understood it was a costume, a survival mechanism. But now survival is no longer the goal. Supremacy is not over others, but over yourself, over your instincts to conform, your weakness, to be needed, your addiction to approval. You've outgrown all of it. Now they watch you, unsure if they should come closer or step back, because you move like a storm, silent until you choose to strike. When you do, it's never loud. It's final. You don't argue. You vanish. You don't warn. You disappear. You let absence speak in tongues they don't know how to translate. That's what haunts them. You were real, then you weren't, and they can't explain the void. They say you changed. No, you revealed. You peeled back the agreeable mask and showed them the king beneath. Kings don't explain why they stopped smiling. They just stop. Every now and then, someone will try to resurrect the old version of you. They'll poke at your past, reference your old softness, try to drag you back into the frame they used to control. But you won't even look in that direction. That version died in silence, and you buried it without ceremony. Now your stare alone delivers verdicts. Your posture dictates standards. Your stillness becomes a sermon. You are the judge and the scripture. They don't know how to handle someone who doesn't need redemption. They're used to people folding under shame, used to weakness disguised as humility. But your humility isn't submission, it's precision. It's silence with a sharp edge. It's knowing your worth so deeply that you no longer need to advertise it. So they test you with absence, with provocation, with flattery, but nothing works. You remain unmoved, not indifferent, but unreachable. They confuse stillness for softness until they feel its weight. The one who no longer needs to be liked can no longer be led. You are not their mirror anymore. You are their contrast, and it stings. They start seeing their own performance through the lens of your authenticity. Their games feel juvenile beside your quiet precision. Their need to be chosen feels desperate next to your refusal to beg. They see it now. You were never part of the crowd. You were studying the crowd. Now you've left the room and locked the door. People become obsessed with what they cannot decode. And you've become unreadable not by being vague, but by being real in a world addicted to acting. You're not hiding. You're just no longer volunteering yourself to those who failed the first test, restraint. Now they crave access to what they took for granted, but access has expired. Your presence is no longer currency. It's a throne they stare at from a distance. You've removed yourself not to be missed, but to be remembered. Remembrance is more powerful than presence. Presence fades, remembrance lingers. You've become a memory wrapped in mystery, a decision they can't undo. That's how control is won, not through domination, but through irreplaceability. You make yourself the standard they can't find again, the energy they feel once and search for forever. You don't compete. You redefine the playing field. You become the emotional watermark by which all others are judged and found lacking. Your detachment is not cruel, it's surgical. It's the precision that saves your future from being compromised by their chaos. You don't cut to hurt, you cut to remove rot. In doing so, you show them a truth they were never ready for, that love, real love, is not blind. It sees everything and sometimes walks away anyway.